The first time I saw my name in Amelia Brooks's handwriting, it was on an urgent care intake form under the word relationship. Not roommate, not emergency contact, not friend. She had written fiancé, which would have been news to me considering I was standing beside her in a rain-soaked hoodie, holding her purse, her insurance card, and a plastic bag full of frozen peas she had insisted would be medically useful. My name is Connor Hayes. I was 29, worked as a project coordinator for a construction company in Columbus, and until that Tuesday night, I had managed to convince myself that being in love with my roommate was a private problem. Annoying, yes, occasionally humiliating, but private. Then Amelia nearly passed out in our kitchen, grabbed my wrist like I was the only solid thing left in the world, and ruined my entire strategy by looking at me like she trusted me more than gravity. Connor, she whispered, pale and sweaty, don't freak out. Which, for the record, is exactly what people say right before giving you a reason to freak out. I had been eating cereal over the sink because adulthood is mostly just improvising dinner and pretending it counts. Amelia came in wearing gray sweatpants, an oversized Ohio State sweatshirt, and the kind of messy bun that should not have been attractive, but absolutely was. She opened the freezer, stared into it for a full 10 seconds, then said, "Why are there 3 bags of broccoli and no ice cream?" "Because one of us shops like they're preparing for a heart-healthy apocalypse," I said. "That sounds like your crime." "It is my crime." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Then her hand went to her side. I noticed because I always noticed Amelia. I noticed the way she hummed when she was trying not to cry. I noticed she only wore lipstick on days she needed armor. I noticed she acted like needing help was a personal failure, which was inconvenient because I had spent the last 9 months wanting to be useful to her in ways that definitely violated the roommate agreement. "You okay?" I asked. "Probably." That's not one of the reassuring answers. I'm cramping or dying, hard to tell. Women are expected to be casual about both. She tried to laugh, but her face went gray. The spoon clattered out of my hand. 2 minutes later, I had her seated on one of our kitchen chairs while I crouched in front of her, trying not to touch her too much, and also trying not to care that she smelled like lavender shampoo and rain. "Look at me," I said. "I am looking at you." "No, you're glaring at my shoulder. Your shoulder is less bossy." "Amelia." Her eyes lifted to mine. There it was. The thing I never knew what to do with. That quiet moment between us when all the jokes dropped away and the air seemed to hold its breath. "I'm taking you in," I said. "No." "Yes. I don't want to be dramatic. You almost fainted next to frozen vegetables. That's called being humble. That's called urgent care." She narrowed her eyes. "You always get this commanding when you're scared?" I should have lied. Instead, because apparently panic made me honest, I said, "Only with people I care about." Her expression changed. Just a little. Enough to make my chest tighten. Then she looked away first, which was unusual for Amelia. She was a graphic designer who could stare down bad clients, parking officers, and our downstairs neighbor's yappy terrier without blinking. But when feelings got too close, she treated them like hot pans. "Fine," she said, "but I'm not going in an ambulance." "Agreed. And you're not telling my mother. Wouldn't dream of calling the woman who once mailed us a pamphlet on mold because you sneezed. She cares aggressively. So do I." That shut us both up. Outside rain slapped the windows. Our apartment smelled like cereal, wet pavement, and something I was too nervous to name. She tried to stand and wobbled. I caught her around the waist. It wasn't graceful. It was 2 adults in a small kitchen, one scared, one stubborn, both pretending my hand resting against her hip didn't change the temperature of the room. Her palm landed flat against my chest. For half a second, she didn't move it. Neither did I. "Your heart is racing," she said softly. "Yeah, well, you're very heavy?" She blinked. Then she laughed, really laughed this time, even though it clearly hurt. "I weigh 126 pounds, you idiot. I was trying to lighten the mood. You chose poorly. I'm under pressure." Her fingers curled slightly in my hoodie. "Connor." "Yeah?" "Thank you." 2 words. Nothing dramatic. But she said them like she knew what it cost me to stay casual around her. Like maybe she had noticed things too. I helped her into my truck because her little blue Civic had decided that windshield wipers were optional. On the drive, she leaned her head against the passenger window, arms folded across her stomach, trying to be tough. I kept stealing glances at her. "Stop doing that," she murmured. "What?" "Checking if I'm alive. I like my roommates alive. It keeps rent stable." "Romantic." The word hit the dashboard and sat there between us. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. "That's me. Practical dreamboat." She turned her face toward me, rainlight moving over her cheek. "You joke when you're uncomfortable. You diagnose people when you're in pain. I'm talented. You're impossible. You renewed the lease with me. I was temporarily insane." "No," she said, quieter. "You were kind." I didn't have an answer for that because the truth was when Amelia moved in, I'd been 3 months out of a breakup with a woman who said I was reliable but emotionally underfurnished. Amelia had been looking for a place after her own relationship ended badly, though she never gave many details. We started as two people splitting rent. Then somehow she became the person who left sticky notes on my coffee mug, stole my socks from the laundry, and knew when I was having a rough day before I did. She became home, and I had no idea what to do with that. At urgent care, the waiting room was crowded and smelled like disinfectant and damp coats. A kid coughed into a tablet. An elderly man slept under a baseball cap. Amelia stood at the front desk with one hand pressed to her side, trying to fill out paperwork while pretending the fluorescent lights weren't making her nauseous. "Sit," I said. "I can write. You can also pass out." "I'm beginning to dislike your tone." "I'll cope." I took the clipboard from her, and she sank into a chair with a muttered, "Bossy, practical dreamboat." I heard it. She knew I heard it. Neither of us looked directly at the other. The form was basic until it wasn't. Name, date of birth, insurance, symptoms, emergency contact, then the line beneath it, relationship to patient. I started to write roommate, but Amelia reached over, her hand covering mine. Her fingers were cool, small, shaking. "I already filled that part," she said. "You did?" She nodded toward the second page tucked underneath. I flipped it over. Emergency contact, Connor Hayes. Phone number, mine. Relationship, fiancé. For a second, the whole urgent care went silent around me. I looked at her. Amelia's cheeks had gone pink, and not from fever. "It's not what it looks like," she said quickly. I stared at the word again. Fiancé. My pulse was doing something ridiculous. "What does it look like?" I asked. Before she could answer, the nurse at the desk glanced at the paper, smiled at me, and said, "You can come back with her, sir, since you're family." Amelia closed her eyes, and then, without warning, she reached for my hand in front of everyone. Not my sleeve, not my wrist, my hand. She laced her fingers through mine and whispered, "Please don't ask me about it until we're alone." But when the nurse opened the door and called her name, Amelia stood, squeezed my hand once, and said the sentence that made every careful wall I had built inside me start to crack. "I didn't know what else to call you. I didn't know what else to call you." That sentence followed me down the hallway like a hand between my shoulder blades. Amelia walked beside me, still holding my hand, and every practical part of my brain kept trying to focus on useful things. Her pain level, the nurse's questions, the exam room number, the fact that urgent care chairs were designed by someone who hated spines. But my hand was wrapped around hers, and she had called me her fiancé. Not because of some joke at a bar, not to get a discount. Not because a creepy guy wouldn't leave her alone. Because when she was scared and hurting and asked to name what I was to her, roommate hadn't fit. The exam room was small, bright, and cold. Amelia sat on the paper-covered table, her sneakers dangling, still pale but less gray than before. I stood near the wall until she tugged my hand. "Don't hover over there like a haunted coat rack," she said. "Sorry, I'm trying to respect your privacy." My privacy left the building when I wrote fiancé on a medical form like a Victorian widow with a secret. Despite myself, I smiled. That is oddly specific. I'm in pain. My references get dramatic. I stepped closer. She didn't let go of me. The nurse took her vitals, asked questions, and very professionally pretended not to notice that my ears went hot every time she said, Your fiancé. How long have you two been engaged? The nurse asked while wrapping a blood pressure cuff around Amelia's arm. Amelia opened her mouth. Nothing came out. I could have saved us both. I could have said, we're not. Simple, clean, adult. Instead, I looked at Amelia's face, nervous, embarrassed, still brave enough to keep holding my hand, and said, it's recent. Her eyes flew to mine. Very recent, I added. The nurse smiled. Congratulations. Thank you, Amelia said faintly. When the nurse left, the room filled with the papery crinkle beneath Amelia and the muffled sounds of coughing through the wall. She stared at me. I stared back. You just lied to a healthcare professional, she whispered. You started it. I was under duress. I'm under emotional duress. Her lips twitched. Is that your official diagnosis? My symptoms include confusion, elevated heart rate, and the urge to ask my fake fiancé why she made me sound marriageable. Oh, you're marriageable. She said it too fast, then winced like the words had kicked her on the way out. My chest tightened. Am I? Amelia looked down at our hands. Her thumb moved once over my knuckle. You're the kind of man people should marry, she said softly. You show up. You remember things. You buy the good paper towels even though you pretend not to care. You fixed Mrs. Alvarez's porch light without telling anyone. And when I'm awful at accepting help, you don't make me feel small for needing it. I had faced angry subcontractors, winter roof inspections, and one terrifying Thanksgiving where my mother asked why I was still single in front of 14 relatives. None of that prepared me for Amelia looking at my hand like it mattered to her. I'm not that good, I said. Don't argue with a woman on an exam table, it's tacky. I laughed under my breath, but it came out rough. Then a doctor came in, and the world became medical again. Questions, pain location, possible ovarian cyst, maybe kidney stone. Probably not appendicitis, but they wanted imaging to be safe. Amelia answered calmly until the doctor asked if there was any chance she could be pregnant. No, she said. One syllable, harder than the others. I felt her hand tighten around mine. The doctor didn't linger. He ordered tests and left, but Amelia's face had changed. Hey, I said. You okay? She gave me a look. I'm wearing one of those backless gowns in a room with a poster of the urinary tract. I'm thriving. That's not what I meant. I know. She went quiet. I waited. One thing I had learned about Amelia was that silence was not emptiness with her. It was a locked door. If you rattled it, she'd walk away. If you stayed close enough and didn't push, sometimes she opened it. My ex used to hate hospitals, she said finally. I kept my face still. I knew very little about her ex. Only that his name was Grant. That she never said it unless necessary, and that, after he left, Amelia had spent 2 weeks sleeping with every light in her bedroom on. He said sick people made him feel trapped, she continued, like their needs were hooks. If I got a migraine, he'd sigh before he asked if I needed anything. If I cried, he'd pace. Once, I had the flu and he left soup outside my bedroom door like I was a stray cat with a virus. My jaw tightened. Amelia saw it and squeezed my hand. Don't do the murder face. I'm not. You absolutely are. I'm doing a mild assault face at most. She laughed, then sucked in a breath and pressed her palm to her side. I stepped closer immediately. Amelia. I'm okay. Don't lie to me. Her eyes lifted. There was something raw in them that made the fake engagement feel suddenly less fake and more like a truth neither of us had been brave enough to pronounce. I wrote fiancé because I panicked, she said. The form asked what you were, and roommate felt cheap. Friend felt too small. Emergency contact sounded like a job. And I know you're not mine, Connor, not like that, but when I got scared, my brain picked the word that meant you would stay. I forgot how to breathe. She tried to pull her hand away. That was too much. Blame the pain. I didn't let her go, not roughly. Just enough to make a choice. You can't say things like that and then retreat, I said. Her mouth parted. I moved closer until my knees brushed the exam table and the paper crinkled between us. And for the record, I am yours. Not because of a form, not because a nurse thinks we're engaged, because I've been trying to convince myself for months that making you tea at midnight and missing you when you're in the next room is normal roommate behavior. Her eyes shone. Connor, she whispered, I know this is terrible timing. The lighting is especially unflattering. I'm confessing feelings next to a urine sample cup. I'm aware. She gave a watery laugh. I brushed a strand of hair away from her cheek. My fingers lingered because she leaned into my touch, just barely, but enough to undo me. I don't want you because you need help, I said. I want you when you're bossy and dramatic and stealing my socks and pretending you don't like my playlists. I want you on normal Tuesdays. I want you when no one is scared. Her lips trembled into a smile. Your playlists are emotionally beige. That's hurtful during a confession. I'm trying not to cry. Then tease me. It's your coping mechanism. She looked at me for a long moment, then reached up and hooked one finger in the collar of my hoodie. It was not a kiss, but it felt like standing on the edge of one. I want normal Tuesdays with you too, she said. The knock on the door made us both jump apart like guilty teenagers. A tech came to take her for imaging, and I was left in the room holding her purse and the frozen peas, which had begun to sweat through the plastic bag. 20 minutes later, she came back shivering. I helped her climb onto the table, then took off my hoodie and wrapped it around her shoulders. She hugged it around herself. You'll be cold. I run hot. Liar. Practical dreamboat, remember? Her smile was tired but real. My fake fiancé is very dedicated. About that. Her gaze flicked up. I swallowed. When we get out of here, I'm taking you on a date. A date? A real one. No intake forms, no urine cups, no fluorescent lighting unless you're into that. She looked down, smiling like she was trying to hide it and failing. What if I say yes because you're vulnerable and hoodieless? I'll accept under those terms. Then yes, she said, but only if we still split rent. That's moving a little fast for an engagement. She laughed, and this time she didn't wince as much. The doctor returned soon after. A ruptured ovarian cyst, painful but not dangerous now. Rest, fluids, follow-up if symptoms worsened. Relief hit me so hard I had to sit down. Amelia watched me from the table. You really were scared? Yeah. For me? I looked at her, no jokes left. Always. Her face softened. The nurse discharged her just after midnight. As we stepped back into the rain, Amelia slid her hand into mine like it belonged there. Then she stopped under the awning. Connor? Yeah? You should know something before that date. My stomach dipped. She looked toward the parking lot, rain silvering in the headlights. Grant texted me last week, she said. He wants to meet. I went still. But before my fear could become the center of the night, Amelia turned back to me and squeezed my hand. I haven't answered, she said. And right now, the only man I want taking me home is you. I drove Amelia home through wet streets and midnight traffic, with the heater blasting and my hoodie swallowing her hands. For 5 full minutes, neither of us said Grant's name. That was probably mature, or cowardly. Hard to tell after midnight when the woman you loved had just been diagnosed, fake engaged, emotionally devastating, and wrapped in your clothes. Amelia broke first. You're quiet. I'm driving. You talk while driving. I'm being legally attentive. You're brooding with turn signals. I glanced over. She was curled against the passenger door, cheeks still pale, hair slipping from her bun. Beautiful in a way that hurt a little. Not polished, not trying. Just Amelia, exhausted and brave and looking at me like she wanted to crawl closer but didn't know if she was allowed. So I reached across the console and offered my hand. She took it immediately. The tight place under my ribs loosened. I don't want him back, she said. I didn't ask. You didn't have to. Your jaw asked loudly. My jaw is protective. Your jaw is jealous. I exhaled through my nose. Maybe. Her thumb brushed mine. Connor. I know I don't have the right to be. You do if I give it to you. The truck hummed over rain-slick pavement. I nearly missed the next green light. She smiled faintly. Please don't crash because I flirted. That was flirting? That was a legal transfer of romantic rights? Very bureaucratic. I did just list you as my fiancé. Paperwork is our love language. Our love language. She said it like a joke. I kept it like a vow. At the apartment, I tried to help her up the stairs without making it weird. I failed immediately because Amelia moved slowly and I hovered like an anxious Victorian parent. If you ask if I'm okay one more time, she said on the second landing, I'm marrying someone else. You admit there's a wedding. I admit there's a threat. By the time we got inside, she was trembling with fatigue. I guided her to the couch, got water, her prescriptions, a heating pad, and the soft blue blanket she pretended not to love because it had tiny whales on it. She watched me arrange everything within reach. You're nesting, she said. I'm managing the site. This is not a construction project. You haven't seen your bedside table? Rude. I crouched in front of her, holding out the pill bottle. Pain meds, then sleep. She took them, then caught my wrist before I could stand. Don't disappear into your room. The words were quiet, not demanding, not dramatic, vulnerable. I looked at her hand on me, then at her face. I wasn't going to. I mean later. After tonight becomes normal and we decide to pretend we didn't say all that in a medical facility. I'm done pretending. Her eyes searched mine. I said it again because she deserved steadier than fear. I'm done. Something in her expression softened so quickly it almost broke me. Then sit with me, she said. So I did. Not across the room, not in the armchair, beside her. She shifted carefully until her shoulder rested against my chest, and I put my arm around her like I had done it 1,000 times instead of imagined it 1,000 times. Her body relaxed by degrees, her cheek settling near my collarbone. For a while, the apartment was only rain, the low buzz of the refrigerator, and Amelia breathing. Then she murmured, This is a terrible first date. I disagree. There are whales. She pinched my side weakly. Our first date cannot be me in sweatpants recovering from an ovarian cyst. I've had worse. Name one. 7th grade, roller rink. My date dumped me during the limbo contest. Amelia lifted her head. Were you good at limbo? No. Then she had standards. I was emotionally wounded. You're very brave to love again. The word slipped between us. Love. She froze. I didn't. Maybe I should have eased into it. Waited for a candlelit dinner, a clean shirt, a moment not involving prescription pain medication and whale blankets. But I had spent months hiding behind jokes, and tonight had proven how stupid hiding was. I do, I said. Her gaze snapped to mine. My pulse hammered, but my voice stayed quiet. Love you, I mean. Not because of tonight. Not because you wrote a word on a form. I think I loved you the first time you reorganized my spice cabinet and labeled cumin dusty taco powder. I just didn't know where to put it. Amelia's eyes filled. Connor, you don't have to say it back, especially not while medicated. I'm not that medicated. Still, no pressure. You always do that, she whispered. What? Make a door and then stand back so I can choose whether to walk through. I swallowed. She reached up and touched my cheek. Her palm was warm now. I love you too, she said. The whole room seemed to tilt. I must have looked stunned because she smiled through tears. Don't make that face. What face? Like someone handed you a puppy and a tax refund. That's alarmingly accurate. I've been scared, she said, because living with you felt safe and wanting you felt risky. I thought if I reached for more and lost it, I'd lose home too. You won't. You can't promise that. No, I said. But I can promise I won't punish you for needing me. I won't make you earn kindness. And I won't run because things get real. Her mouth trembled. Then she leaned in. The kiss was soft at first. Careful. A question. I answered by cupping the back of her neck and kissing her like I'd been starving politely for 9 months. She tasted like peppermint from the urgent care front desk bowl. Her fingers curled in my shirt and I felt the moment she stopped being cautious and chose me fully, tilting closer with a little sigh that went straight through me. I pulled back before I forgot she was hurting. Her eyes opened slowly. Why did you stop? Because you need rest. I need many things. Amelia, that tone is less romantic when I'm trying to seduce you from under a whale blanket. I laughed, then pressed my forehead to hers. Rain check? Second date? Third, if we count the urgent care engagement. We absolutely do. She fell asleep against me 20 minutes later, one hand tucked in mine. I stayed until my arm went numb, then I stayed longer. Morning came gray and quiet. I made coffee and toast, then brought both to the couch where Amelia was awake, rumpled and blinking at me like I was something dangerous to her composure. You made triangles, she said, looking at the toast. Toast tastes better in triangles. That's a dad fact. I contain multitudes. She took a bite and moaned softly. I stared at the ceiling. She noticed and grinned. Problem? You're cruel. I'm recovering. Be nice. I sat beside her, and she immediately leaned into me again, casual now. Like touching me had become a habit overnight. I wrapped my arm around her and kissed her temple. That was when her phone lit up on the coffee table. Grant. The name sat there like a stain. Amelia's body went still, but she didn't pull away from me. She picked up the phone, read the message, and let out a slow breath. What does he want? I asked. She turned the screen so I could see. We need to talk. I heard you're engaged. Is that true? Amelia looked up at me. There was worry in her eyes, yes. But there was something else too, a spark. A decision. She set the phone face down, climbed carefully into my lap like the answer could wait, and kissed me once, firmly. Then she whispered against my mouth, It's getting truer by the minute. It's getting truer by the minute. Amelia said it with her mouth still close to mine, her knees bracketing my thighs, my hands hovering uselessly because I was trying to be respectful, and she was making respect extremely difficult. Just to clarify, I said, are we talking about the engagement or my blood pressure? Yes, she kissed me again. Morning light slipped through the blinds in gray stripes, catching in her hair. She was wearing my hoodie, whale blanket abandoned on the floor, and she looked like every quiet wish I'd ever refused to make. My hand settled at her waist. Careful, I murmured. I'm not made of glass. No, you're made of sarcasm and poor impulse control. And you're made of worry and toast triangles? We're a balanced couple. Her smile faded, not sadly. More like wonder had caught up with her. She traced her thumb along my jaw. Couple, she repeated. I went still. Too soon? No. Her eyes held mine. Say it again. I tightened my arms around her. We're a couple. The grin that broke across her face was worth every awkward month of wanting her in silence. Then her phone buzzed again on the coffee table. Grant's name flashed. Amelia looked at it, then at me. The old fear tried to cross her face, but she stopped it halfway, like she'd caught herself reaching for a coat she no longer needed. I should answer, she said. Do you want to? No. She swallowed. But I want him to stop thinking he gets to knock on the door of my life whenever he's bored. I brushed her hair behind her ear. Then answer for you, not for him. She nodded, picked up the phone, and typed while still sitting in my lap. Connor and I are together. I'm not meeting you. Please don't contact me again. She showed me before sending it. Not for permission. For partnership. I kissed her shoulder through the hoodie. Perfect. She hit send. For 3 seconds, we stared at the screen like it might explode. It didn't. Amelia set it down and exhaled. I feel like I just bench pressed a car. You look very strong. I am, also nauseous. That's either emotional growth or the cyst. Romance is glamorous. I smiled and rested my forehead against hers. Speaking of glamour, I believe I promised you a real date. Her brows lifted. I am medically fragile. I was thinking low impact. Couch picnic. Fancy grilled cheese. Sparkling water in wine glasses. A movie you will pretend not to critique. She looked suspiciously touched. You own wine glasses? Mugs shaped like skulls. Even better. So our first official date happened that evening in our living room. I changed out of the urgent care hoodie because Amelia had claimed it by squatter's rights. She showered and emerged in leggings, fuzzy socks, and a soft green sweater that made her eyes look warmer than the lamplight. I almost dropped the skillet. "You're staring," she said from the doorway. "I'm appreciating." "I look like a couch goblin. You look like my date?" That did it. Her cheeks pinked, and for once Amelia Brooks had no comeback. I made grilled cheese with 3 kinds of cheese because love, apparently, was dairy excess. I poured lemon seltzer into mismatched skull mugs. I lit the one candle we owned, which smelled aggressively like pine cones. Amelia sat cross-legged on the rug, watching me set plates on the coffee table. "You know," she said, "if you keep being this adorable, I'm going to become impossible." "You arrived impossible." "True, but now I'll be impossible with expectations." "I can work with expectations." Her expression softened. "I know." We ate on the floor with our knees touching. The movie played, but neither of us watched much. We talked instead. About my disastrous roller rink history, about her first design job, about how she used to draw wedding dresses in the margins of her school notebooks and then got embarrassed and switched to dragons. "Dragons are just wedding dresses with boundaries," I said. She laughed so hard she had to clutch her side, then glared at me. "Do not be funny while I'm healing." "Sorry, I'll be handsome and silent." "Ambitious." After dinner, she leaned against the couch and I sat beside her. Not touching at first. Then her pinky hooked around mine. "Connor." "Yeah?" "If I had written boyfriend on that form, would you have corrected me?" I looked at our linked fingers. No. "If I had written husband?" My heart kicked once, hard. I turned toward her. "I would have needed a minute." She bit back a smile. "But?" "But no." Her breath caught. I didn't mean to say the next part. It came out because the room was warm and she was close, and I was tired of treating honesty like a loaded weapon. "I don't want a fake future with you, Amelia." Her eyes searched mine. "I'm not asking for anything tonight," I said. "I know we just got here. I know yesterday we were pretending rent and cereal were enough. But someday, if we keep choosing this, I want the real word. Not on a form because you're scared. From you because you're sure." She blinked fast. "You can't say things like that over grilled cheese." "I'm learning there's no elegant setting for us." She laughed, then crawled carefully closer until she was tucked against me. I kissed her slowly, with pine cone candle smoke in the air and melted cheese cooling on our plates. It was not urgent care, not panic, not fake anything. It was a beginning. Later, her phone buzzed again. This time, she didn't reach for it right away. I felt proud of that. Not because of Grant. Because Amelia stayed with me instead of leaving herself to manage someone else's storm. Finally, she checked it. Her shoulders stiffened. "What?" I asked. She read aloud, voice flat. "You always do this. Make me the villain. I'm coming by tomorrow so we can talk like adults." The apartment seemed to dim. I sat up, but Amelia put a hand on my chest before I could become all jaw and fists. "No," she said gently. "Stay here with me first." So I did. She turned off her phone, set it aside, and climbed into my arms. I held her, but not like a shield, like a man being chosen. "I don't want tomorrow to steal tonight," she whispered. "It won't." "Promise?" I kissed her forehead, then her cheek, then the corner of her mouth until she smiled. "I promise." She rested her head under my chin. "Good, because this is still our first date." "And how am I doing?" She hummed. "Strong start, good toast, excessive cheese, excellent kissing. Room for improvement? You could ask me to be your girlfriend officially." I pulled back to look at her. She arched a brow. "Unless you need a clipboard." "No clipboard." I took her hand. "Amelia Brooks, will you be my girlfriend?" Her smile went soft and bright. "Yes, Connor Hayes," she said. "And for the record, that is the first accurate relationship status I've written all week." I kissed her again. Tomorrow could knock if it wanted. For one perfect night, we didn't answer. Grant came by at 10:17 the next morning, I know, because Amelia and I were in the kitchen, splitting the last triangle of toast like it was a sacred treaty, when the knock landed on our apartment door. 3 hard hits. Amelia's hand stilled halfway to the plate. I wanted to stand in front of her. I wanted to open the door and explain with my face why coming here was a terrible idea. Instead, I looked at her. What do you want to do? Her eyes flicked to mine. That mattered. I could see that it mattered. She took a breath, set down the toast, and reached for my hand. I want to answer it, with you beside me, not in front of me. I squeezed her fingers. Beside you. We opened the door together. Grant was tall, polished, and irritated in a way that suggested the world usually rearranged itself when he frowned. His gaze went from Amelia's face to my hand holding hers. So it's true, he said. Amelia's fingers tightened, but her voice stayed even. Yes. He gave a short laugh. You move fast. I felt her flinch. Not much. Enough. I started to speak, but Amelia stepped closer to me, not behind me. No, you don't get to do that. You don't get to show up after a year and talk like I owe you a waiting period. Grant's mouth tightened. I wanted to apologize. Then you could have texted an apology. I wanted to do it face to face. You wanted access, she said. There's a difference. The hallway went quiet. I looked at her profile and felt something deeper than protectiveness. Pride, maybe. Love, certainly. She was pale, still healing, wearing fuzzy socks and my old hoodie, and she looked more powerful than anyone I'd ever seen. Grant looked at me. Can we talk privately? No, Amelia said. He blinked like he wasn't used to her answering first. She lifted her chin. Connor is part of my life. You are not. Say whatever apology you came to say, then leave. Grant stared at her for a long second. Then some of the performance drained out of him. I was terrible when you needed me, he said. I know that. Amelia's face softened, but not toward him. More like toward the younger version of herself who had once waited outside a closed door with a fever. Yes, she said. You were? I'm sorry. She nodded once. Thank you for saying it. Hope flashed across his face. Amelia saw it and ended it gently. But I don't want you back. I don't want coffee. I don't want closure that takes 3 hours and makes me comfort you. I'm happy now. Then she looked at me. Not for help. Because I was part of the happiness. My heart turned over. Grant followed her gaze, exhaled, and stepped back. Okay. And that was it. No shouting, no dramatic threats. Just a man walking down the hall smaller than the shadow he had left behind. When I closed the door, Amelia leaned against it and shut her eyes. I waited. She opened one eye. You're being very quiet. I'm trying not to propose out of admiration. She laughed, and it broke the tension clean in half. Please don't. I'm in socks with avocados on them. I've seen worse proposal conditions. At urgent care? Exactly. She walked into my arms and I held her as she shook a little. Not because she was weak, because sometimes being strong takes everything. I did it, she whispered. You did. I didn't apologize for being happy. No, I didn't make myself smaller. I kissed the top of her head. You were magnificent. She tipped her face up. Magnificent? Don't let it go to your head. Too late. I expect tribute. I have half a toast triangle. Acceptable. We ate it standing in the kitchen, sharing bites and laughing every time crumbs fell on the floor. It was absurdly domestic. It was also the first moment I realized that love was not always fireworks or grand speeches. Sometimes love was watching the woman you adored choose herself, then choose you, then steal the last bite of toast and look smug about it. That evening, we changed the emergency contact information in both our phones. Relationship, girlfriend. Amelia showed me hers with a solemn expression. Look, accuracy. I'm honored. You should be. There was a strong case for toast supplier. A respected title. She slid onto the couch beside me and tucked her feet under my leg. Connor? Yeah? If this gets hard, don't disappear into being useful instead of honest. The request landed exactly where it needed to. I took her hand. Okay, and if you get scared, don't call yourself dramatic instead of telling me. She swallowed, then nodded. Okay. That became our first real promise. Not forever. Not yet. Just honesty before hiding. It turned out to be enough to build on. By the following spring, Amelia and I had moved into a bigger apartment with windows that caught the evening sun. We still split rent because she insisted romance was no excuse for financial chaos. I still bought too many vegetables. She still labeled things in the pantry when stressed, but now she kissed me in the cereal aisle. Now my hoodies lived mostly on her side of the closet. Now when forms asked for relationship, she would pause dramatically and say, "How much truth do they deserve?" 1 year after that urgent care night, I took her back to the same clinic parking lot. She stared through the windshield. "Connor Hayes, if this is a date, your romance privileges are under review." "Not the clinic," I said, "the place. The place where I had internal abdominal drama. The place where you accidentally told the truth before either of us was brave enough." Her expression changed. I got out, came around to her side, and opened the door. Rain misted softly under the streetlights, just like that first night. Amelia stepped down, suspicious and smiling. "I swear," she said, "if you brought frozen peas—" I knelt. Her hands flew to her mouth. "Amelia Brooks," I said, my voice already rough. "You once wrote fiancé because roommate was too small, friend wasn't enough, and you needed a word that meant I would stay. I have stayed. I will keep staying. On normal Tuesdays in bad lighting over toast triangles, in every waiting room life throws at us." Tears slipped down her cheeks. I opened the ring box. "This time," I said, "will you write it because it's true?" She laughed and cried at the same time. "Yes." I slid the ring onto her finger and she pulled me up by my coat and kissed me in the rain outside urgent care while a minivan honked supportively behind us. Months later, at our small wedding, Amelia tucked the original intake form into my jacket pocket before walking down the aisle. She had somehow gotten a copy. Under relationship, in her familiar handwriting, was the word that had started everything: fiancé. Below it, she had added a new line: husband. And when she reached me at the altar, eyes bright, hand steady in mine, I realized home had never been the apartment, or the lease, or the emergency contact field. Home was Amelia choosing the right word and then choosing me to live inside it. What would you have done if your roommate wrote fiancé under relationship on an urgent care form? Before you'd ever admitted your feelings, have you ever had someone accidentally reveal what you meant to them? Tell your story in the comments. If you like this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.